goal is to bring you your next favorite band.
Thanks for having us. This is a very cool show.
Yeah, so through many iterations, and we finally landed on the weirdest one by far.
Yeah, simple feelings, and boom, you got a sound.
I remember this one time. I had been writing some songs, and I went out. I'm just going right in on this story. I went out, and so I was.
The story's longer than the song itself. We'll go ahead and play it.
And listen, it's going to be everybody's favorite band. Welcome to your next favorite band. That's both the show title and our promise to you. We here at Stereophilia Studio are tireless in our pursuit of finding incredible, genre-defiant artists who are either a hot, up-and-coming band or a group that has been delivering for years but have flown under the radar. Tonight, bringing us the indie rock power pop of the Tisburys, Tyler Asay. Each month, we will bring you live streams, audio podcasts, and perhaps even a live concert where you can listen to the stories and hear the music of artists personally curated by us based on what we feel will be worthy of your time. Be sure to subscribe and tune in to each episode because the possibilities are endless and you never know who will be your next favorite band. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Philip Reese.
Hello, and I am David Moore, your co-host.
And this is...
your next favorite band.
It sure is, David. This is...
absolutely should be.
quite a great run we've been on. We seem to just hit these wonderful strides, and we are bathing in it, as they say.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had a lot of great artists on lately, so be sure to check out recent episodes, along with subscribing, because now we have to do all those type of things to tell you to click buttons and podcast in your ears and whatnot.
Yes. Would love that. That's like the only thing we ask is if you like what you're hearing, subscribe, like and follow, and where you can, mostly on the podcast side, give a review. Hopefully 5 stars, but definitely give us feedback on what you're liking and maybe what you would recommend. But that would be great. Also, a reminder to save the date Tuesday, August the 1st. That night's episode will be our Music Fest Exordium.
Live from the Flying V,
and with all the great guests that you heard about last week. So should be at a minimum a fun time.
And at a maximum, God, who knows?
Yes, we might split an atom or cure cancer, but hopefully
space time.
The lower, we're going to set the bar a little lower. Just get the goal of that you
might have fun.
Find a must see band or two.
That would be nice.
Probably the big thing there, and the weather. Bobby Martrich will give us a good early focus on the weather. But before we bring on this week's guest, I came across this graphic. And I feel like these are kind of clickbaity, but it's fun.
You just do these to torment me, to get me to goose me.
And in fairness to you, we'll probably bring this. You can take this as homework, just because I think it'll be too much to put on you in the moment. But I found this, and what it is who is your state's Bruce Springsteen?
Well, okay, so without even looking at the map, I can tell you that because I'm from Delaware, that they have George Thorogood for Delaware. Because
you're absolutely correct.
I mean, that one's going to be no questions asked on that one. That one's an easy one.
Yeah. So basically, it's kind of I guess the exercise here is that who's like the singer-songwriter
who defines
the state, I guess. And some of them are a little bizarre. Some of them are completely on the money, and I think it's just at a minimum these things are fun to just kind of chat about.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the Florida one makes me laugh.
Fred Durst. Yeah. And just since, again, this is podcasts at times, there's people who can't see the screen.
Right.
You can either search for this, who is your state's Bruce Springsteen, but we'll mention a few. But I'd like to start with, and all due respect to Kurt Weill, that's who it's listed for Pennsylvania. I love his music.
Sure. Kurt Weill's great. Who would you have picked, though?
I guess my exercise was, that was part of it. Like I wondered, like I don't know, actually, who came to mind was kind of like a Low Cut Connie before I read it. Like, it was like, I don't even know. But to me, I would love to get Dan Drago's take on who he would say should be in the PA square. But again, I would, in fact, Mr. Vile, please come on the show. We'd love to
We'll
interview.
discuss this with you over other.
Well, I don't know if I would discuss that because I'm not even taking it away. I guess like when you look at other states, I guess this is probably better. Like Tennessee, Dolly Parton, Texas, Willie Nelson. This is a tough one. So I also started to think about who's missing from this list. So let's just throw out a few others. John Denver from New Mexico, Alice Cooper from Arizona, Lana Del Rey, California, Ben Gibbard in
the Lana
Washington.
Del Rey one, I guess, is kind of interesting. I mean, because California has produced quite a few artists, but I guess it's also meant to be. I mean, like there's part of me that wants to be like Brian Wilson instead. That.
No, I could see that. Some others, just real quick: James Brown, South Carolina; Ray Charles, Georgia. Again, these are all perfect. But so like Minnesota's an interesting one. So you see Prince, that obviously makes a ton of sense. But the person who I think is missing from this is Bob Dylan, and he's from Minnesota. So like that's a state that it's like holy smokes, and another one that came to mind was Stevie Wonder. He's Michigan, so's Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin got chosen. Can't argue that. Can't argue that one. So, like, there's a lot of great things in here. It's just kind of fun to play around with. Ronnie James Dio from New Hampshire, which you just went to an Iron Pigs game and heard a Dio song, which I thought was...
played Rainbow in the Dark because it was... I mean, look, I'm not going to knock... I'm going to take the Dio tracks when I can get them. I'm not a huge Dio fan, but it's not that often you get to just hear it blaring through a giant PA system.
Right. And the other one, Arkansas, was... they have Jay Penry, which I thought, again, I gave Johnny Cash Arkansas. That's where he was born. Kind of surprised he wasn't on here. But again,
I actually like that Oklahoma's is a fictional character.
I know. Oklahoma
Chris
is Gaines.
Chris Gaines, which
That's
is
fantastic.
the Garth Brooks pop star that existed for one album in the mid-90s.
Right. Yeah, that is pretty funny. Just Charlie Parker, Kansas... Donnie and Marie from Utah.
I think part of it also depends on how they're defining the term, quote, Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, they get to define that however they
so
like.
I think that's part of the reason why certain ones aren't showing up or being used or whatnot.
Yeah, but like we said, it's not to throw hate or shade at anybody. It's more just like a fun exercise in chatting about that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure, totally.
So if there are any, the homework, I guess, would be also for anybody listening, if they want to recommend any alternatives out there, like how did that, and mind you, this was not our list,
Correct. We did not put this together. Ours would have been so much more scientific notation, let me tell you.
Yeah. Yes, but it was from Best Show, Forever Dog. So thank you for 50 States of Bruce Springsteen conversation. Which kind of brings us to tonight's guest. Huge fan of Bruce. That was another reason why I thought this fit here. Music can sometimes get connected to, that kind of stuff. So maybe one day Tyler Asay will be the one on this map.
Perhaps, and maybe we'll be the ones that can say, well, we interviewed him then.
Right, exactly.
And our little grainy black and white footage will be used for some sort of like very expensive life documentary at that point in time.
Yeah. And so excited to bring everybody the music of the Tisburys. This is a Philly-based band with just such a tight, great, like just clean sound, just terrifically, written music.
Yeah, I mean, there's two aspects to it that I think really add up to the quality that you get, which is there's great songwriting, which is, you have good songs. And then you also have this great sort of like power pop rock kind of thing going on, because it's got earworm kind of melodies that happen, but it's got this cool jangly guitar, and every once in a while a very tasty guitar solo that's just right for the song.
Yes. So let's get into some of this tasty jangliness. Here are the Tisburys. This is one of their tracks off of the most recent release, Exile on Main Street, a song called Garden by the Tisburys.
2015 by singer-songwriter Tyler Asay and lead guitarist John Domenico. The Tisburys are an indie rock power pop band from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The band has released 3 full-length albums, most recently 2022's Exile On Main Street, along with several EPs and singles. Their music has received praise and radio play from NPR and 88.5 WXPN, and have been featured on Stephen Van Zandt's Underground Garage. They have shared the stage with national acts including the Gin Blossoms and Jenny Lewis, and local Philadelphia heroes such as the War on Drugs. The band is gearing up for their first U.S. tour and recording their 4th LP in 2023.
All right, we'll bring this up a little bit more and bring on Tyler.
This is one of the tasty solos I was talking about.
Yeah, I was going to say that this is the tasty solo.
It's all John.
I was going to say, Tyler, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. And if you don't mind, maybe use this moment to introduce some of the members of the band as they're on the screen, including when they're ripping a tasty solo.
Tasty solo, that's John Domenico playing lead guitar. That's Jason McGovern playing keys. We got a Doug Keller playing bass, who's going to show up in 1 second. And Dan Nazario playing drums. And I'm Tyler Asay. I sing and play guitar. So that's the Tisburys.
And we are honored to have you. We did check before bringing you on how to pronounce your last name, but neglected to ask you how to pronounce Tyler.
Ah, yes. Yeah. It's all good. No worries at all. I'm used to it.
Oh, that's awesome. And obviously, did you, this would be a funny question, did you plan to pick a rainy day, or was this the day of the shoot and it poured on you?
It's funny. I was driving. I visited my parents yesterday in Scranton, and we were driving down 476 today in that storm. So it's fitting that you're starting with this song because the rain was falling quite hard this afternoon. I'm sure we were driving past Allentown, Bethlehem. And
yeah. It is pouring
down
today, the day that we're recording. And if we do lose power in the middle of this, because there's some wicked lightning too, apologies ahead of time. But I think we'll be good. No, but very cool video, awesome sound. Like we talked about before, you bring in influences of Bruce Springsteen, Wilco, Gin Blossoms was mentioned before.
Yeah,
the Replacements,
and they're all my faves. Yeah.
Yes, and I don't know if anybody mentioned this before, but Exile on Main Street was already used as a title.
Yeah.
No, I'm just totally kidding, because you do that on Twitter all the time, where you no kidding, dude.
Yeah, it's funny because we picked it like kind of as a joke and kind of like in reverence of the original, because I love the original so much. But it was also just like whoever hears that, and this is the exact response we got. They either laughed and thought it was funny and checked out the album because of that, or they told us to screw off and said, "How dare you do this?" And it's like, I don't want those type of people listening to our band anyway. So it kind of worked.
Super protective Stones fans, like they're like, "I'm going to cut you with a shiv."
There are people who take themselves way too seriously.
Oh,
like,
yeah. And even on top of that, like it was a little bit of that homage to the Replacements, using "Let It Be" as a title.
It was more towards the Replacements than the Stones.
Yeah.
Like "Let It Be." This is our 3rd album, so
yes, it was very cool.
"Let It Be" was theirs, and yeah.
And you also, I think, had, again, it was like so multi-dimensional. You also had Liz Phair, Exile in Guyville, kind of on the mind at the time with some of the writings.
Yeah, a lot of the guitar tones are more Guyville than they are like Stones, or just like that kind of 90s guitar rock, which is like really like radio rock is like from the 90s is like some of my, like Gin Blossoms too is some of my favorite stuff. So that definitely played a part.
Yeah, and the last one was just one last thing on the name of the title. You're also wearing it in the T-shirt in the video there. It's Main Street Records. You work there, and so Exile on Main Street, also a shout out to
it's our neighborhood. Store. It's the record store I work at, Main Street Music, which is right on Main Street in Manayunk, and I've worked there for a little over 5 years now. So like I learned a lot of the music that has influenced the band, like weird deep cut power pop stuff, like from working at that store, because it's such that kind of record store, like a crate digging store. So there's so many different references within the music and the lyrics too. So it was kind of like a fun little treasure box to kind of
I'm sure your discovery of working there with your fellow music, let's call them geeks, is unearthed all sorts of things where you get those infamous, you're digging through the crates, but you infamously, oh, you've got to check this, and somebody pulls out this one, and you're like, number 7 or track 2, side B, or whatever it is they're referencing. Like, you got it, and then the next thing you know, you're like 7 albums later, and everybody's got In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida on somehow.
Yeah. Like there's a band called the Honey Dogs. Do you guys know the Honey Dogs?
I don't know the Honey Dogs.
Check out the Honey Dogs. There's a song on the record that was totally influenced by the Honey Dogs, and that's like a reference that I don't know if anyone would understand, but they're a great power pop type jangly rock band. But
fantastic.
Yeah.
One of that track, I think your music is very eclectic and different. So like, not that every song has that same kind of style, but the one that jumps out at me when I listen to Garden too is it kind of reminds me of the Jayhawks.
Okay, yeah, loved the Jayhawks. Yeah,
that like the harmonies and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they got like that soaring stuff and like a little bit of country, but like not so far off the deep end. But like that Americana, like Heartland rock vibe is.
That's kind of what I was getting out of that one. But love it, love the track, love tons. You're just amazing. Again, like when you come across, this is what before. Listen to me, I can't even finish the sentence. Before we started this show, these were the moments that I loved, where I was just like, yet another amazing band I never heard of before, and that's what it turned into. That it's like this never-ending pipeline of awesome that I was like, let's do a show about it. So hopefully other people are now gonna really enjoy checking out the Tisburys. So. What we like to do on the show, as you know, is we like to roll it back. So taking you way back, your influences, your dad played music and played at the bar where your mom worked.
Yes.
Jimmy Buffett covers, I guess.
Pretty much. I mean, he threw a lot of Bruce in there and Beatles, and like that's kind of what I was raised on. So yeah, he would be playing, my mom would be working, and eventually I like got up the own gusto to get up there and play myself. And that was fun. Yeah, and then that's where me and John. It's kind of when the band started. Is me and John would do like coffee shop gigs.
Sure.
Just like
even before you and John, the first Tisburys song is "Stars and Stripes Forever" at the second grade piano recital.
Yeah, we took that's where we met officially. We took piano lessons together in second grade. So the first official show was a piano recital. I did the rhythm part and he did the lead part. So it's nice. We're still doing that today.
I was just going to say rhythm and lead. It started that way when you were 7.
Mm-hmm. You talked about playing with John, and that's cool. But let's go just a smidge. Did you get a chance to play with your dad? Like, did you at that place? Did you guys go up there and do like a Jimmy Buffett or a Bruce cover together?
All the time I was in high school, I felt a little more confident and ready to go out and play. And we would play together too at events and stuff like that. So
that's fun. I just always think that kind of stuff's fun when you find those connections.
Yeah, how to play chords and write songs, which was a big thing.
Yeah, so you and John are doing, I guess, like you said, coffee houses or open mics or whatever around the 2012 time. Yeah. And then the original name of the band is Tisbury Obama, right?
That is correct, yeah.
Yeah,
it's it was like a kind of an inside joke. It was like a girl John was dating at the time. It was like kind of like a reference to her name. And then it was, we just needed a name. And that's something we threw out there kind of like as a joke. And then we didn't ever change the name. And then we just dropped the Obama at some point because I don't know, I got tired of explaining that to people. Right. I still have to explain the Tisburys, but it kind of has that traveling Wilburys, like family band type of vibe, which I do like.
Oh yeah. Definitely. And then basically that kind of, I guess if you don't mind a little bit, so like this is now where like, I guess people go to college, things going to get a little bit more dispersed.
Yeah.
But it comes back together in 2015. Is that right?
Kind of, sort of. Yeah. We had been going to college and I had still started writing more kind of serious songs and taking the songwriting thing a little more seriously. And that's the time we made our first demo tape. It's called Saxophones.
Yeah.
It's only on our Bandcamp, but
I was just going to say it's not available for streaming. But it is something that is where the roots are for you.
Yeah. I was listening to it. I was listening to a podcast driving back today, and they were talking about like their first songs that they had written. And I was like, we were stuck in the rain coming down on 476. And I was like, damn, I kind of want to listen to Saxophones because I hadn't listened to it in so long. And I was like, oh, I still kind of like these songs. Like,
that's cool.
You can definitely hear the DNA of what's to come, which is a fun experiment. I don't know.
And do you ever play those like in sets or anything? Did those songs ever come up?
Water's Edge still, I mean, we re-recorded Water's Edge in Between the Lines for our first album, Wax Nostalgic, which came out 2019. And we still do Water's Edge. That's one of my favorite songs I've ever come up with. I really like how that melodically flows, and some of the lyrics to that I'm pretty proud of. So that one sticks around in the sets for sure.
That's cool.
A lot of them are like kind of more inside joke songs about our high school friends. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. It took me a while to like start like writing serious things. But,
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's interesting too. This was kind of my next question is, I know you talk about when I was researching Wax Nostalgic as being the first LP, but 2017 was Crooked Roads.
Yeah.
And Wax Nostalgic was 2019, but it was purely the way that they got mixed and engineered. Is that right? Like, or do I have something wrong there?
Yeah, I mean, I had just graduated college in 2016, and I remember writing a lot around that time. So a lot of the stuff on Crooked Roads and Wax Nostalgic was kind of written all in the same time period. But I forget why I picked the certain songs to do for certain things,
right.
But Crooked Roads was like we went to our friend Justin Nazario's. He was living, it was like in his parents' basement at the time. And it's funny, we still work with Justin today, and we made Exile with Justin too. And you can kind of hear how his studio engineering abilities have also improved. Like it's a kind of a crazy time capsule to see how that evolution between both us and him and our like collaborations together. But Crooked Roads was it was like 3 songs I wrote like together.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, let's record these in like a weekend and put them out. And
mm-hmm.
we hadn't put anything out in a while. So that was kind of like, and we had just moved to Philly. I was going to Westchester at the time.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. And we're like, we should put something out. We should start playing more. And then that, goes from there. We start playing. That's kind of around the time Doug joined the band too. Was Crooked Roads, Wax Nostalgic time. So
and Wax Nostalgic was a cool one to me, and I think you even said this too. It's like where things got a little bit more taken seriously. Not that you weren't before, but like it was more musical risks taken.
Yeah,
more complicated.
There's an 11-minute song on the tail end of it. So we were trying some not experimental, but just I don't know.
I think there's a little bit of like a music maturity that happens to it too.
Yes.
You know, you're starting to find your influences and not necessarily be ashamed of them. Not that you were ashamed before, but it's the idea of like, oh, this thing, we like this thing. Let's make sure that noise, that tone, those kind of things show up in the pieces.
Yeah, and we're having more fun too, and playing a little looser, but also closer to playing together better as a band. And
and with that too, you release that in 2 parts. Like Wax Nostalgic comes out as 2. Again, streaming kind of erases any real impact there, but now, like back then, it was released as 2 halves of one, like a part 1, part 2.
Yeah, I re-released it like 2 years ago, maybe, as the full. It's like
the deluxe edition.
The deluxe edition on Spotify. That was just me trying to be funny, but
the box set, the 12 version,
anniversary deluxe box,
remixed and surround,
remastered, all the fun stuff.
Liner notes by some special journalist.
Bob Mayer. But. No, and then the 11-minute medley, the 3 songs at the end. It was the first 6 songs, and then those last 3 songs. We split it up because those last 3 songs took a little extra time to record and put together, and it was
because it had strings and that kind of stuff too. It was like a different kind of
strings and horns, and it was pretty ambitious for us at the time. But that's just it was in my head. I had to get it out. And it was fun to do that, so I'm proud of that. But that's Wax Nostalgic.
That's so cool. And that was around the time you started working Main Street Music, right?
Yes, I remember we played Record Store Day at Main Street Music on I think it was like 4/20/2019.
Yeah, was part 2 a giveaway at Record Store Day or part 1?
Part 1 was.
Part 1.
Yeah, it was like we got the CDs and that was why we put them out early, or we kind of split it up. It was like we're playing Record Store Day. We wanted to have a new release. So we were like, we'll put out the first 6 songs, and then we'll work on the medley. We'll get it done, and we'll put them together at some point.
Yeah.
So.
And then years down the road, you do the deluxe box.
Exactly. Yeah. Fingers
Remaster.
crossed. Yeah.
Then 2020. This is, I mean, again, we always talk about it kind of being a trope as pandemic impacts people, but it was so
Yeah.
universal and usually is a transformative time.
Reset button.
Yeah, and for you, it certainly was. Basically, Sun Goes Down was originally supposed to be a 5-song EP called Fading Light.
Yep. Yeah.
And then the pandemic hits and you're not yet done with the EP, so you transform. You reset button it.
I had written like those first couple months of the pandemic, I was writing a ton of songs. Like Garden was also written around that time.
Got it.
But something about Garden was like, oh, this song is special and I should save it for something else. I don't know. It just like had a different kind of, when I'm like writing songs, I'm like putting them in little packages of like, they kind of have different mindsets. Like, oh, these songs are related, so they should be a part of something else. But I remember writing like In the Moonlight and Back to California and I think Walk Away. Like these songs kind of came at the beginning of the pandemic, but they felt like Sun Goes Down. And I was like, oh, this record is I'm starting to see it as a more developed project. And we had a lot of time on our hands.
Sure.
Because everyone did.
Yeah, because the two things that you did, gigs and record stores, were closed. And that's got to be a scary moment to you.
Exactly. And we were doing, the record store was doing like a lot of virtual shopping and stuff, whatever we could do to kind of keep things rolling.
Sure.
And we also, that's when Dan started playing drums with the band too. And Dan and Justin are brothers. They're both Nazarios. And so Dan was able to go track drums at Justin's place. And then we were all sending all our tracks remotely. We would record them
flying them in.
Yeah, and we would actually mix with Justin via Zoom too, which was an interesting way to work. But
sure,
I mean, John has been in Brooklyn, so we were always kind of like working remotely,
right?
And we've kind of learned how to do it the right way, I think, or a way that works for us,
right?
Yeah.
And technologies like this one didn't even exist before.
Yeah, look at us. We're chatting right now.
Right.
Yeah.
In the middle of a thunderstorm.
Exactly.
It has been a very cool, like in some ways you can't remember it not being this way. You're like, wait, how did we communicate before and collaborate on an album or mixing or whatever? And it's like, now you could pop it up, in the moment and deal with it, real time instead of waiting for the next scheduled appointment or whatever it is.
Yeah. And it's funny, I was thinking about this recently, but Wax Nostalgic, I feel like it took us a really long time. Like, the thing where it's like you have like your whole life to make your first record and then you have like 2 years to make the second one. And it's kind of, I feel like it took me so long to make the first one and kind of figure out how to make a record and how to, what mistakes are okay to make and which mistakes are not okay to make. But by the time we did it, I was like, okay, now I know how to do it. And then Sun Goes Down comes out like a year later. Like it was like it kind of opened the floodgates for me and I now knew how I wanted these pieces to fall into place and create art the way we as a band know how to make it. So
there was a maturity there on the creation side as well.
Yeah, totally. And just like the workflow thing where
you kind of know actually how to cook the food, if you will, versus just like, I mean, it really is. I mean, there's a thing. It's like, I've got these songs. Well, now what?
Yeah. Like how to organize my thoughts and how to communicate them better to the band. And we play together better. And,
I'm sure they learn how to give better feedback on things that they're like, hey, that thing, maybe we move this, can we extend the intro a little bit because I've got this idea, those kind of moments that happen when you communicate as a band.
Totally. Yeah. And just being, working and, I don't know. Yeah. You kind of said it. Yeah.
David has a way of just summing things up so beautifully.
My wife calls it blunt, but,
but there is that track you mentioned it before on this album, Back to California. I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
It's a fun poppy kind of thing in a great way.
Yeah, there's definitely a Beach Boys thing going on.
Yeah. And we will play that after the credits to give people again another flavor of different kind of Tisburys tunes. So I wanted to just mention that that'll be what we close the show with. But anything else here, like before we jump in back, we kind of come full circle here to the more recent release, like out of the pandemic, Philly music scene, kind of explodes and thrives and comes back and whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, not everything makes it, sadly, but there's definitely a supportive community in that Philly music scene, and I just kind of wanted to get your take on that and just kind of like all things Philly.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. You guys mentioned Dan Drago earlier,
Yeah.
but he always like Manayunk, man. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's in the water in Manayunk, but it's really cool the past, especially a couple years since the pandemic, just to see like around the Grape Room and places like Dawson Street Pub and Main Street Music too. Even it's a record store, not a venue, but there are so many bands around here that are like really kind of helping each other out and doing good work too, which is you love to see that. And it is kind of its own little world, but it's still the greater Philly.
Oh, yeah. Manayunk has its own vibe for sure.
Yeah.
Plus, everyone has excellent calf muscles from walking up the damn hill.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
really awesome parking options.
Yeah.
Certainly not during the ice storms and such that I've always seen.
Yeah.
Rough.
Well, I'm up in Roxborough now, so that's a little more removed, but
Yeah.
and then also just like I gotta give a shout out to XPN too, because like they
Cool.
do such a great job of
They do.
Oh, fantastic.
promoting like who they like where like good work is happening in the city too, which is
Agreed.
and then like we were so blown away by like getting the call to play the festival last year. I was like I interned at XPN too when I was in college, so
Oh, cool.
talk about huge crazy full circle moments that I never thought would happen.
Can
like
you just talk about it a little bit? I'm always intrigued by what people's story is when they have those kind of things. Like which programs did you work on? Who did you work with? Or were you sort of a little bit of everywhere?
Oh, when I interned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm always
so
just sort of like behind the curtain kind of moment,
Yeah,
like all I did
totally.
was make photocopies.
I was I did the music blogging internship because when in college I did a minor in journalism, and I was like, it's funny, when I was in college I was like, oh, I'm gonna write for Rolling Stone and Stereo Gum. Almost Famous was like my favorite movie.
Yeah.
It's like that's like what I wanted to do. So when I was there, I worked with John Batiste, who was running the key. He still is running the key, even though they folded the key into like the general XPN
Correct.
music news
Right.
thing. This was fairly recently, but yeah, I was working directly with John, and he would like assign me like 5 stories a day and concert picks and everything, and I would just sit at the computer and just like crank out like news, like Philly band releases X song, and I loved it. I had so much fun doing it, and just being there at the XPN studio was
Sure.
like so much fun, and like Bruce Warren's hanging out, and
Right.
someone's running down the hallway, and there's like, hey, the Lumineers are doing a private World Cafe set downstairs. You want to go see them on lunch break? I was like, yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
great.
Yes is the answer.
Yeah.
That's why I bring it in a brown bag in case this
Yeah.
happens. I'm ready to go.
And then the other crazy thing I always think about with that is that I was there. It was January 2016 to May 2016, and in January David Bowie died, and in May Prince died.
Yeah.
And I remember that just being in that like office when that happened, and like as the news is breaking, was just kind of like crazy. I don't even know how to explain how crazy that was.
Yeah,
and both of them, like it was like a bookend.
Yeah, I can totally believe that it was already just as a music fan.
Yeah,
like the kind of news where you're like, oh, that's
Yeah.
terrible. But then,
and
to
like
be in a
everyone's
place-
reckoning with it, and like how to like you're like kind of breaking this news, like you're a radio station. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like programming stuff and all this is just so insane.
Yeah.
But
It
you
was like
like
history and life retrospectives and that kind of
But
stuff.
you finally get the chance to go, like, we've got to put Starfish and Coffee from Sign of the Times on the air right
Yeah,
now. We finally get a chance
exactly,
to play it.
Or was it April? He died in April 2016, right? Because sometimes it snows in April. Was like-
Yes, you're right. I think you're right on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, R.I.P. Prince. What a fucking
What? Like
Yeah.
we're connected to
Lord.
the internet. We
Yeah,
could
yeah,
find
yeah.
out.
yeah.
Well, that like we talked about earlier with those like the Springsteens of every state, like
Yeah.
having him in there, you know,
Mhm.
and then again Bob Dylan and Prince from the same state. You're like, I don't know what one to pick.
Yeah. I've been
But-
rocking out to Cinnamon Girl by Prince. Do you guys know
Uh-huh.
that song?
Yes.
Yes.
Like
April
90s Prince.
Yes.
April 21st.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
David went fact checking for a moment.
Yeah.
I mean, we have, basically the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, aka Wikipedia, available to us at
Yeah.
all times. So
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's funny. I mean, I loved writing for XPN, but then after the internship ended and I was like trying to start out like do like music journalism things. It's funny like when the whole like those that can't do teach, right?
Right.
Like that dumb thing. It's like
Right.
rock and it's like those that can't play music write about music like
Mhm.
that, and then that whole kind of thing is
Right.
stupid. Let me just
Right.
throw that out there. But I was also like, oh, I am better at going out and playing shows than I am at pitching to publications. So
Right.
let me just stay in my lane and play music instead of but huge respect for people who write about music.
Who write about it? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like you thinking about things here. You talked about that you liked the Almost Famous and lived that a little bit.
Yeah.
And then now you're kind of living more high fidelity with the record store. Like
Yes, yeah, just music all the time.
Right.
Indie rock,
working through
underground,
different
weird,
films.
crazy
Yes.
music, weird bands no one's ever heard of. Like, sign me up. That's just like keep giving it to me. That's my favorite.
Yes,
universe.
yeah, that's as you can tell from the show that's what we're all about too. So yeah, if that like you mentioned the Honey Dogs before. If you get any others, send them our way. We'd
Will
love
do. Yeah.
to
For
check
sure.
out any new music. So like we said, this brings kind of back to the beginning of the show, where you're now starting to put together and release Exile on Main Street. And again, I think like we talked about before, each album seems to take a jump in. Quality is not the right word because it's quality in the beginning. It's more just like there's like these professionalisms, I guess, that are just keep kicking in.
Yeah. There's certain like signpost. Like I feel like it kind of took us a while to not get serious, but just like kind of find our footing and how we wanted and like develop a sound or whatever you want to call it. But I feel like we kind of finally got there with this last one, and in a ways, it kind of also feels like a first album. I don't know. So other people have been like, "Oh, it's the Tisburys' first album." I'm like, no, we do have 2 ones before it, but like this one really does feel like kind of the first. I don't know.
And maybe that was like, I don't know, prologue or
or
The
just
Hobbit
like
compared to
adult-
Lord of the Rings or something.
Yeah,
like that.
or like a high-fi. Like we finally went
Preseason.
Yeah,
They finally
maybe.
figured
I
out
don't know.
stereo over mono mixes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also, I think you guys have also sort of settled into a consistent group of individuals also,
That
I
too,
think that
yeah.
contributes to it as well. And you've
Yeah.
been playing together now for a little while, so that you guys all have that sort of, the Tisburys is a homogenized group of those individuals versus those individuals playing Tisbury songs.
That's definitely. I think you just nailed it because when Dan started.
You are crushing today.
When we were doing Sun Goes Down, it was kind of like Dan was just kind of like a session drummer kind of thing. And then
Right.
after the pandemic was kind of closing and we were like, oh, we can start playing shows again. It was like, Dan, come play with us. And then he joined the band. And then we did this Wilco tribute at XPN World Cafe
Right. Awesome.
fall of 21. And that's when Jason joined us we needed someone to play
Because you need that,
keys
yeah.
and banjo and just some of the auxiliary stuff. Because Wilco is like,
Right, sure. You got to, especially if you're doing across all of different eras, you've got to come up with all sorts of stuff.
You need more than just like a 4-piece rock band.
Yeah, you need a
make that stuff
Voltron
happen.
multi-instrumentalist.
Exactly, and that's where Jason comes in, and then
Yeah.
he started adding more stuff to the songwriting and production too, which brought this whole nother level to it. So now we are this kind of cohesive. It's kind of like I was writing about Wilco the other day for something else, and I guess I still do write about music. It never ends.
Right.
But it's like Sky Blue Sky is kind of when they are the Wilco we know today. That's like Nels Klein and Michael Jorgensen and the same guy. That's like, and that's Wilco. So I feel like we've kind of come to that place where it's like we have this band that
really cool way to put
really
it.
playing together really well. And we just did this tour and that even made us a better band. Like I'm
sure.
really happy with where we're at right now.
Yeah, for sure.
He's like, we've all learned
Yeah.
live with each other when we're on tour. Because
Yeah.
that's the other side. You may have great musicians, but sometimes like, and he's a jackass on the
Yeah.
but sometimes then you realize that like, no, I found out all the guys that I can actually hang out with. Like,
Yeah,
this is
totally.
okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's a track on Exile on Main Street, La Mancha.
Yes.
Where your father-in-law plays the trumpet on it.
He
so
does.
also,
Yeah.
congrats on your recent nuptials.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah, she's upstairs right now.
Nice.
But we got married in May, and yeah, her dad Henry played on a couple songs, and Kathleen played some on flute as well. She played flute on the first song, Tisburys Main Street, and Language of Luxury too.
Yeah.
And then he played trumpet, and then he's mostly a trombone player, but he's a retired band director, so he can play a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And we should have mentioned that too.
Family band, right?
There you go. Opening track and closing track are kind of like a reprise, and it's like a Tisburys theme song of sorts. Like,
that was actually Doug's idea to do the reprise, because I had that Tisburys on Main Street. It was originally just called the Tisburys, and it was like kind of like a Wilco. Or there's a couple bands that have songs like Black Sabbath has Black Sabbath on the album Black Sabbath, right?
Right.
So, yeah, exactly. So
Monkeys, right?
I kind of wrote that. I've had that song like kind of in the tank for years and years and years, and I knew it was going to be like kind of the kickoff track to some album, and I had that kind of riff, that the da na 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 na, and then it was like kind of going through and kind of is it 10th Avenue Freeze Out where he's like, and the big man joined the band, right?
Yeah.
Yes, from Springsteen. Yes.
Yeah. So it was kind of like that. It was like kind of an origin story song, but like deeped in like a bunch of other bullshit from my brain. But
Clarence Clemens is showing up, like,
there is a crazy sax solo on that song too, which was definitely on purpose in that vein.
Sure.
Yeah.
But we had this song to kick off the album, and Doug was like, you should bring it back at the end. You should reprise it. And then I was like, okay, we'll kind of record like the evil version of it, or just the minor key version in Music Theory Land.
Right.
And that
the
turned
yin and
into,
yang of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that turned into Exile on Main Street.
Yeah.
And there was like kind of this flow to it that worked pretty nicely.
And if you play it backwards,
you
become the other thing.
You line it up with Wizard of Oz too.
Too much. You're giving it all away. We got to wait before the deluxe super edition to come out for that.
Yeah. I do love all these. This is like a thinking man's engineering of an album. Like, you've got so many subtle Easter eggs spread throughout. It started out in those first tracks as just inside jokes about schoolmates, and then now it's continued to be these things where you're like subtly, putting some things in there.
Yeah, all my favorite bands kind of have that. Like the Beatles, that's like like Vampire Weekend has a lot of self-referential stuff, and there's like a ton of bands that I love that they kind of build a universe around the music, right? It's not just the music, it's not just the lyrics, it's kind of the whole project.
Yeah.
So,
and it's great to have you on for people to have this peek into it, because maybe if they just throw on 3 tracks, like, oh, it's good music. But to now know all these kind of backstories, it's like you're going to go diving in and looking for it.
Yeah, you get obsessed. That's like, I just get obsessed over certain things like that. So
yeah, I mean, I'm a liner notes guy. So we're going to touch on your album's liner note for a second, because you mentioned the locations it's recorded, including the Overlook Hotel.
That's my house.
I'm intrigued by the Shining reference that is.
Yeah, so we live on
Stephen King has signed off on the project.
Yeah. We live on Overlook Road, and we kind of jokingly call our house the Overlook Hotel because when John comes down and stays here from gigs, because he lives in Brooklyn, he always crashes here, and we call it the Overlook.
I just thought that was a fun little tag that was in there, and I'm like, I have to ask about this, because it's such a nice little nugget that's in there, and I'm waiting for Jack Nicholson to somehow be in the background.
Yeah, it was it 4th of July as the picture at the end, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
My friend just sent me it was like on the 4th a couple days ago.
That's awesome. I hope he didn't Photoshop your face on.
It was out in black and white, and it's like, oh, Tyler's been here for 300
years. That's why we don't know which release this is, because he can't remember how many he has anymore.
Yeah.
But rumor has it you'd be able to play a song for us today.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Let's
let's do it now.
Okay.
And if you need a moment to tune or whatever.
Yeah. Probably just a second, just to make sure everything's plugged in, good to go.
Cool.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Got guitar.
And what we'll do is we'll come off the screen so you can have center stage if you want to intro the track and then any other stories behind it, and we will enjoy.
Sweet. Yeah. Let me just
some Tyler Asay.
Get this tuned. All set? Yeah, so
you're all set to go. Sorry.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I forgot you couldn't hear me when we're backstage.
Yeah, so this is a song from Exile on Main Street. It's called When Love Knocks You Down, and it was like very nice of Steven Van Zandt from the E Street Band. We mentioned Bruce a couple times tonight. Picked this song as one of his coolest songs of the week on his Underground Garage radio show, which was super cool. And he said my name on the air, which was a totally surreal experience. So yeah, he said the Tisburys. This is When Love Knocks You Down by the Tisburys. Do you feel like you're running out of time? You shot the moon and you're losing your mind. This providence was promised by fools, and you've been jaded by the rich and the cruel. So if you're locked in the silence on an ocean of violence, when those tears you were crying came to town, and I'll pick you up when love knocks you down. The bends take a tender age to bloom. Both love and death barge into the room. The dream you tossed was falling away, like a voice in your head, like a moth to a flame. So if you're locked in the silence on an ocean of violence, when those tears you were crying came to town, and I'll pick you up when love knocks you down. You disappear like a shadow in a glass house. Will everything go back to how it was before? You dread the days you spent alone in darkened rooms, but I will try. We'll flip it over and move forward from the night. So if you're locked in the silence on an ocean of violence, when those tears you were crying came to town, and we don't have no money, and our faces look a little funny, and those tears we were crying, they came to town, and I'll pick you up when love knocks you down. When love knocks you down. Thank you.
Thank you. That was stunning.
Thank you so much.
Great song. And what an honor to have that played live. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks. That was fun.
Absolutely. So people can catch that on the Exile on Main Street album.
Yeah.
Streaming services, Bandcamp, all that good stuff. We always try and encourage people buy merch straight from the band. So ways that they can do that is to come see you at a show.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a couple of those.
Yes. So the obviously we're super pumped to have you be playing at our festival here in Bethlehem Music Fest.
Yeah, it's first time we'll be there. I'm so excited. It's been another bucket list thing for us. Yeah.
Have you been up into Bethlehem to either, check it out or play up here ever before?
Yeah, we played at the Funhouse in Bethlehem. It was like right before the pandemic. I think it was winter of 2020. So it was probably like February. We played, do you guys know the Groove Merchants?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Big time,
it was with our buddies, the Groove Merchants. So,
yes, very cool. That is awesome. Yeah, they are a great Lehigh Valley band that now actually kind of is based in Philly. Yeah. But they definitely, we love their music. Big fans of the Groove Merchants.
Killer live band.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Talk about so good.
Yes. A quick moment there. They will be playing, I think, opening night of Music Fest, the Friday, the 4th. But let's talk about your date. Tuesday, 8th of August.
Yes.
And 8:30 p.m. And kudos to Music Fest for getting this right. They put you on the Main Street stage, so you're on the Exile on Main Street.
Exile on Main Street stage. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
Marketing is really lined up for that one.
I'm gonna ham that up big time.
I think you absolutely should.
Yeah.
But again, thank goodness they saw an opportunity there and seized it.
Yeah.
And clearly, also from our perspective, like we'll be able to put out awesome, tweets and social media posts that'll totally ham that up too.
Yeah, awesome. I love it.
But people should definitely come check that out. Obviously, we always mention this. It's a free festival, so it's a chance to come check out tons of music discovery opportunities. But obviously, when you know someone as good as the Tisburys are playing for free, you should get your feet out there to go see that and ears to listen. Some other shows we wanted to mention, Dogfish Head Brewery. That'll actually be before that on the 5th of August.
Yeah, we're doing a little short run of shows. So Dogfish Rehoboth, Brewings and Eats. Yeah, we're playing. I think it's 8 to 10 p.m.
They have a surprisingly nice stage there.
Yeah.
Ever since they rebuilt the whole place.
Yeah, I'm super pumped for that. Yeah, and then Dogfish Music Fest on the 8th.
Yes. And then anything else to promote? Either again merch or other shows or new music? Anything out there brewing?
Yeah, we're playing Ardmore Music Hall. I think in September 23rd. So
awesome.
with the old 97s. So
that's a great show.
I'm very, very excited for that. And if any of those shows you want to come hang and say hi and talk about music, and we have merch and stuff, CDs. Working on vinyl. We'll see about vinyl. It's expensive, but
it's a long wait. I've heard too. We've had some people that they're like, we waited a year to get our pressings, and it's one of these like, ouch.
Yeah.
So
didn't Metallica buy a vinyl?
They did.
Yeah, down in DC, right?
I think it was in Virginia, right outside of DC.
They were just like, this, I'm buying one.
Yeah,
I'm tired of waiting.
Metallica's like, wait, we have to wait. Like,
yeah, and then we just started working on the next album too, so I'm very excited to. We're getting back in the studio. We've been doing some demo pre-production sessions, and then we're hitting the studio in September. So we should.
So not that you're going to give anything away, but as you were telling stories before, you were like, I knew I had this good song like Garden, and I saved it, and you had this, and you were saving it. Like any cool stories to share? Like, is there something bubbling up that you've been hanging on to for this album?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's songs that I've had for this next one that we've started playing some of them live. There's a song called The Anniversaries that we've started playing. We've played it on our tour.
fun.
We've changed the arrangement of that song like 6 times, but
Yeah,
we
that's the time
finally
to test it out, right?
yeah we finally got one that we were very happy with. So
Mhm.
that's probably a single.
And
and
they
then-
do an EP where you play all 6 different arrangements in a row.
We did. We chatted about that as we were working at the demo session.
Oh, that's
the version you
I
can
nailed
find
it.
you can find the old version of the song that we played at Johnny Brenda's on our YouTube, and it's like kind of a slower shuffle version. And then
Mhm.
we were playing the new one, which is like more of a fast rocker, which I think it always was supposed to be.
meant to be that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then John was like, "Oh, because John's like a jazz guy, so he's like, I missed the slow shuffle version." And I was like, "Well, that'll have to be a B-side. We'll have to put it out. It's like Anniversary's jazz shuffle."
Yeah,
version.
yeah.
Right, the anniversary night version. You know.
Yeah,
if you will.
exactly. Daytime and nighttime, or fall and spring, or something. I don't know. Something fun.
Jazz shuffle mix.
Yeah.
Cool. And then, like I said, we're going to play Back to California after the
Sweet.
credits roll. It's a fun video. A lot of fun, goofy dancing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Any cool stories about the recording of that?
We did it on a green screen here in this basement where I'm sitting, like pandemic
Overlook Hotel.
times. Yeah, like right as we kind of could start like seeing people like in small groups and
Right.
not like be
Break the
worried
law.
about dying. But yeah, Back to California.
Yeah.
So,
It's very cool. Very cool.
yeah.
Well, Tyler, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This was awesome. Thank you for performing and sharing all the great, nugs that are kind of hidden in these recordings, and just a wonderful kind of catalog of music. And I hope a lot of people will enjoy getting to know the Tisburys.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It was a great time chatting with you guys. And yeah, thanks for having me. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Yeah.
And look forward to seeing you at Music Fest for sure.
yeah.
Dan's coming up for it.
Yeah.
And we'll be definitely checking it out.
Dan.
That's right. And we'll hopefully get a chance to say hello after the set.
For sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. See you guys soon.
Thanks,
Tyler.
Bye.
David,
Phillip.
I feel like we did it again. Another someone's favorite band out there.
They're great. The Tisburys are great.
Including us.
There's an instant earworm factor to some of the songs, and yet there's a depth to the songs, as we were just discussing. You've got reprisals, you've got the 3-song sort of medley that's at the end of the other one. So there's all these sort of things to unfold. As you were mentioning, you may have just caught a couple tracks because they ended up on a Spotify playlist. Well, this is your opportunity, and we've now learned all about opening those things up.
Right.
Finding all the nuggets that are in there.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that you always find like the liner note nug.
I just, every once in a while you got to get a Stephen King reference in.
All right, Phil, let's say goodbye to everybody.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Your Next Favorite Band. We'd like to sincerely thank Tyler Asay of the Tisburys for sharing all of those amazing stories and all the tidbits of what went into the songwriting and, secret little, hidden Easter eggs for you to go find as you dig deeper into their catalog. We'll be linking to, their social media, the Bandcamp and everything for the ability to kind of check those things out. And they'll be in the show notes for you. So please like and subscribe to their content to find out more about what they've got coming up as far as shows and what have you. And definitely get a chance to see them. Check it out. Hope to see you at the Music Fest show. We will be there, of course. As always, our hope is to bring you your next favorite band. If you happen to tune in tonight because you already knew the Tisburys, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed it and that you might consider liking and subscribing to us and our ability to possibly bring you your next favorite band. And if you have a suggestion as to who you think our next favorite band should be, we'd love to hear it. You can either email us or post about it on your social media of choice. And if you are a musician and you'd like to come on the show, drop us a note for that. And if you'd like to sponsor the show, we're obviously always open to that as well. But definitely looking forward to things and can't wait for the Music Fest Exordium on August 1st and start to talk about all things Music Fest from that point going forward. And see you at a live show soon. now here is Back to California by the Tisburys.
It started raining when I was on the corner while you were driving away in a Corolla. It took a while, but I cannot ignore ya. After the war, you went back to California. Where did you go when you left in a hurry? I should have known that it was in New Jersey. Don't sign your Hancock, don't give me the chameleon. I know you're cold, but we're all east of Eden. I follow you and all the ways adore ya. All painted ladies go back to California. Sit on your front porch, forget that it's a Monday. My worthless heart will get back to you someday. The dandelion, it burns with desire. Your hills are rolling, your landscape's on fire. Take all your money, invest in the sunshine. A perfect reason to take back the meantime. I'll follow you and I'll always adore ya. All painted ladies go back to California. And this East Coast sadness drove you into madness from 3,000 miles away. This fast-paced lifestyle made you jump the turnstile, and I couldn't make you stay. It started raining when I was on the corner while you were driving away in a Corolla. It took a while, but I could not ignore ya. After the war, you went back to California. Take all your money, invest in the sunshine. A perfect reason to take back the meantime. I'll follow you and I'll always adore ya. Painted ladies go back to California.